Wow, using "here's why" in your title? Look, I would have given it a better title if I cared that much about it, or dedicated like half of my brain power to writing something catchy. That being said, Komi Can't Communicate is one of the best shows I've seen in the past year, and even though it's only a few episodes in so far, it's on track to becoming one of my favorite anime rom-coms. And here's why I did the thing. A little fun fact for you, I am autistic. Yeah, I know it's obvious, shut up. And in combination with that, I have also personally struggled with crippling social anxiety, and to an extent still do. A basic conversation can be terrifying for me, especially if it's with someone I don't know personally. I used to shut myself off from the world out of fear. Even today, I barely say anything unless I need to. And after having a lot of progress to get out of that shell being squandered by... I became incredibly scared that I myself would fall back into my old ways if I was forced away from people. Now, things aren't so bad for me these days. I have friends to fall back on, and they've helped me through a lot of shit just by being there. And I've come to cherish the moments I spend with the people I'm close to, knowing that they're aware of my personal quirks, and they helped make me a stronger person as a result. Now, there's a reason why I suddenly exposited a lot of personal details, and that's because managing to relate to Komi Can't Communicate and becoming attached to its cast of characters was probably the easiest thing I have ever done. Now, I'm not going to spend the rest of the video going, "Damn, she just like me for real!" But to say this show tugged at my heart and jolted it in different directions is an understatement. And I believe that Komi is a show that, to the average viewer, is a wholesome and hilarious rom-com with spellbinding animation and manga accuracy. And for the many of us out there who struggle with our anxieties pertaining to other people and the outside world, it's a touching, relatable, and wonderfully written show that just might help someone out there make their first step. Shoko Komi, known well throughout her school as the class Madonna. God, I hope not. Is tall, slim, beautiful, possibly some kind of cat creature, and the entire planet's waifu. Like seriously, the entire planet. And you would think that someone with such legendary labels such as literally God would be a peppy social butterfly, but as you probably know by now, no. Komi suffers from crippling social anxiety and has a strong fear of being rejected by her peers. It's debatable as to if her communication disorder is a dominant genetic problem or if she really has anxiety that's this bad, but that's besides the point. With so many people looking her way and with the weight of people's admiration crushing her, you can imagine that she's a bit of a nervous wreck, and it leads to a lot of people not understanding her. Some thinking that she just doesn't want to talk to or acknowledge them. Some thinking she doesn't like them. Some people think she's a murderer. All the while, she desperately wishes she could communicate with them and wants to be their friend. But she just can't say the words. Enter Tadano, self-proclaimed reader of rooms and secret Chad, who strives to be as average as possible so that he can make it through school with little to no hassle whatsoever. He sits next to Komi. Chadano is the first person to realize that there's something off about Komi, and after making a blind guess as to what her problem may be and getting it right, he and Komi start to bond by writing messages on a chalkboard and getting to know each other in one of the single most touching scenes I have ever watched in the history of anything ever.
Disgusting!
Komi tells Tadano that her goal is to make 100 friends, and now with Tadano's support and mastery of reading the room, she can finally try and make that dream a reality. And the rest of the show consists of Tadano helping Komi make friends with her peers, and slowly but surely shedding the shell of Komi's anxiety by assisting her in trying and doing new things, and having her take one step at a time. The premise of the show is inherently strong right off the bat. It's not like this is the only anime to cover social anxiety or anything, but Komi ends up being emotionally gripping just from how stinking charming this fucking show is. Now, the character designs are a point of contention. Some people love how unique they are. Some think they look weird, and yeah, they look weird. But I think it's a good kind of weird. They nail the cozy feel that the show goes for, and on top of that, they assist in making the show as adorable as it is. Now, everyone's aware of Komi's bug eyes, but the expressions in general are fantastic. I'll go into more of this when I talk about the animation, though. Generally, the show follows a formula, and while it's noticeable, the writing more than makes up for it. It generally consists of easing Komi into a new environment or having her try something new, whether that's going to the pool, inviting friends, or making friends, and follows the hijinks that ensue from that. And boy howdy, there's some fucking hijinks. While the show thankfully doesn't make social anxiety a joke, it does make jokes about people's reactions to that anxiety, but it's not like it's anything offensive. It's usually wholesome or eccentric anime humor that's usually good-natured. But what Komi nails when it comes to comedy is the timing. This is some of the best comedic timing I've seen in a slice-of-life anime, and the vast majority of it lands. While some jokes can get a little overbearing, particularly pertaining to Yamai being the most down-bad psychotic lesbian yandere you will ever lay witness to, but we don't need to talk about her for now. Most of the jokes do land. There's something unique about how Komi's humor is written specifically, and I can't really nail what it is other than its timing. Maybe it's about how blunt it is, I don't know. But aside from the humorous side of these scenarios, Komi always experiences something new, and watching her open up more and more and eventually becoming more independent in what she does is touching. And God, this show just makes me so goddamn happy. I'm not an outwardly emotional guy, but each time those damn guitar strings start playing when Komi overcomes a social obstacle, I just put my hands on my heart and try to kill the cringeworthy standing ovation that's happening inside me. As goofy as this show can be, it taps into your emotions a lot. Like, damn, empathy got hands. The show is also, as previously mentioned, overwhelmingly adorable. If it isn't Komi trying to signal what coffee she wants to order, it's the wholesome friendship between her and Tadano that'll make you internally squee. I just wish the best for both of them. No manga spoilers, please, I don't want them. Like, yeah, there's some anime cliches here. Yes, there's a horny dog girl. Yes, there's fan service. Yes, there's a beach episode, and this will probably turn you off if you're a bitch! I'm telling you, man, this beach episode had a lot more going on than just tits. Relatable scenarios and heartfelt storytelling in between all of the craziness makes this show special, and it's backed up by a cast of very quirky characters. Let's get the pro tags out of the way. Komi needs to be protected at all costs, but apart from that, she is the heart and soul of the show. What keeps you coming back is watching her navigate through many scenarios that may seem mundane and simple to the average viewer, but is the equivalent of exploring a different planet for someone with communication disorder, and watching her gradually make her way through and how she comes out to the other end, learning more and more and coming out of her shell. She develops feelings she's never had before, goes to places she wouldn't normally go, and owes it all to her friends who are with her every step of the way. Jadano is just so damn likable, and plays off of Komi's shyness perfectly. His drive towards helping her through day-to-day life and his devotion to just being a good friend and good guy to be around, despite trying to put on the whole super average guy thing, is admirable, and he regularly swallows his pride in order to keep Komi out of a difficult situation. The relationship between the two is both cute and undeniably pure. You feel the trust Komi has in Tadano, and you feel how much faith Tadano has in Komi. And those scenes where he just looks on with pride as Komi becomes more independent speaks volumes as to their bond. Hell, when Yamai does the extremely bad thing that should not be done ever to my boy, Komi considers and tells Tadano that she wants to not be friends with him simply to keep him safe from psychotic bitches. And obviously it doesn't end there. He reminds her of her own words to Yamai, "I will decide my friends myself," and that's what she decides to do. Other than the protext though, we have some interesting characters here. The school that the two attend is filled with eccentric and crazy personalities which directly juxtapose Tadano's level-headedness and Komi's, trouble with speaking. And they vary. Najimi is cool. I like Najimi. Najimi is a being that exists purely to make friends and fuck around, and they are not restricted by societal constructs like gender or social boundaries. You know, I see too many people debating if they're trans or non-binary, but when the wiki states that their gender is literally Najimi, I think you should just embrace the chaos. No, Najimi's real gender is not any of those boring things. Najimi's real gender is bastard. Hooligan. Be a force of nature, you funky creature. Being the antithesis to Komi by making friends with everyone they meet, they're also a total troll and I love them. Hey, you can claim the jokes are insensitive, I just think that if you didn't laugh at Najimi changing their gender on the fly just to fuck with someone's love confession, you're just boring. And while they can be somewhat overbearing at times, Najimi is by far the funniest character to watch and definitely doesn't lack when it comes to making the occasional intelligent decision. You know, aside from playing Jenga in the library. Higari is sweet when she's not being a constant masochist, but she's mainly there for comedic purposes, and they work. Komi's mom is perhaps the most blatant MILF bait I've seen in a while, but you can't help but find her charming. Komi's family in general is very interesting, as we find that a lot of them are also very quiet and reserved people with possible social anxiety. Watching Komi interact with her father was very cute, but also quite interesting considering how similar they are. Nakanaka is a chonipyo, and while they don't appear much, I won't deny they were fun to watch, and seeing Komi go out of her way to make friends with someone largely without Tadano's help was a nice way to show her progress. However, if Nakanaka is the series' chonipyo, then Yamai Ren is the love and other delusions. If I had to describe Yamai in a few seconds, I would simply show you this lovely illustration courtesy of Twitter.com. None of what I'm about to say is new or anything. Yamai is a horrible person, and that's the point really. She's horrible. That's the joke. She's a stalker, obsessive lesbian yandere trope that a lot of people are getting tired of, and I think she's one of the most egregious examples of it. If there's one thing I do not like about this show, it's her. Granted, she does have a lot of funny moments, but they're just that. Moments. The joke gets old super fast. at, and it just makes her an annoying stain on what is otherwise a great series. I mean, she kidnapped Tadano for being friends with Komi, threatened to kill him, and then held everyone in the room at knife point, chopstick point. Wow, very effective censoring there, guys. Like, I get it, she's not seen as redeemable, her obsessive nature is supposed to be funny, but stuff like this just ain't it. Thankfully, she only has one episode actually dedicated to her, which is where this fucking fiasco happens, and the rest of the series she's just a comedic side character. She's far more tolerable that way. That being said, it's not like the episode she was in was bad or anything. I loved seeing Komi put her in her place. I got emotional hearing how much she cared for Tadano's safety, as well as hearing her say her first sentence in person to someone. It just really would have felt more powerful to me if she didn't then make friends with Yamai herself. It doesn't undermine the scene or its purpose, but it would have been better if that was simply Komi saying,
"Fuck you, kid, you're adopted,"
and then we never see her again. At the same time though, it's possible she's making friends with her specifically to protect Tadano so that she doesn't freak out and try to do something drastic, but that's up for debate. The other characters I haven't mentioned are probably more important in the manga, since the first season of the anime has barely scratched the surface, but they were funny at times too, so there. Overall, I like this cast of characters. They're funny for the most part, but it's mainly Komi, Tadano, and Najimi that I'm really interested in, and that makes sense since they're the protagonists, but they're good protagonists. This will be really easy to talk about. The show's animation has absolutely no need to go as hard as it does. The first episode is quite possibly the biggest flex I've seen a slice of life show do before. So many of the shots in this show look movie quality, and there are multiple moments where the animation just gets super ambitious for, I don't even know why, but they went above and beyond to make this show look good. And in terms of manga accuracy, I think we finally have something that rivals JoJo in that regard, since a lot of the show's humor and a lot of key information is told through text boxes in the manga. The anime goes out of its way to put these text boxes into the show itself, and they're wonderfully deadpan. They usually get a pretty decent chuckle from me, but sometimes it's clear that the show was originally a manga because there are several moments that are purely reliant on text boxes, which I personally don't mind, but I can see some people thinking it's lazy. But hey, if it's funny, it's funny. And the expressions some of these characters make are just so batshit crazy and cartoony that they sell any scene they're used in regardless of the actual writing. And when it comes to the more adorable side of the expressions, I mean, go into a public Discord server, primarily one that welcomes weeb shit, and count just how many people use bug-eyed Komi as their profile picture. To add on to that, make it a drinking game. I'm not legally responsible for any liver failure though. While the art style in general is debatable, I think it works. As previously mentioned, it nails the kind of cozy feeling you get from watching the show during its more grounded moments. It's cutesy, it has way too much meme potential, and I imagine its simplified look is why the show can regularly get away with spending its entire budget on Tadano moving a chair. It's all great stuff. Now, don't worry, this isn't me complaining about how Western translations are the death of artistic beauty just because Nagatoro said sus at one point, because as far as I'm aware, there aren't many insanely bad translations for Komi's dialogue. No, the main point I have is that the Netflix subtitles, which is how the majority of people are going to be watching the show legally, are dog shit. Not because of the dialogue that's translated, but because they didn't care about the majority of stuff that needed to be translated. Komi Can't Communicate is a series that is heavily reliant on text to tell jokes or important information, or in Komi's case, be her only method of communication. There are a lot of emotional moments and visual gags in the series that Netflix fucking ignores. They only translate the most important stuff to the story, so that basically means they only translate the stuff that Komi and Tadano write that they consider to be important, and refuse to translate anything else. This not only butchers the majesty of the chalkboard scene by just not translating a lot of the visible conversations between Tadano and Komi where they start to bond, but it also turns a blind eye to visual gags. And overall, I would be okay with Netflix translating important stuff if it actually looked good, but instead all of the Japanese that they translate is put at the bottom of the screen in white text that is for some reason always in capital letters, as if Komi is internally screaming at Tadano the entire time. It is such a rush job and makes the legal way of watching the show an inferior way of viewing it. There are multiple, far better fan subs out there on multiple websites not only give half a damn with the translations, but they also actually bothered with making it look good. Look at the fan sub compared to the Netflix version. It sucks. How could Komi learn to communicate if she can't even communicate with the audience? Now, I don't condone piracy. Just watch the fan subs, okay? They actually do this fantastic show justice. overall, despite my gripes with certain characters and my frustration towards Netflix's treatment of anime, Komi Can't Communicate is a must-watch. I highly recommend it. Even if you don't suffer from social anxiety yourself, watching the show is a wholesome, feel-good experience that brings some laughs and a lot of emotional moments, topped off with some brilliant animation. It's not a perfect show by any means, but for an adaptation of a beloved manga series, it goes above and beyond to be as faithful as possible while not sacrificing quality. I hope the anime gets another season. I really want to see where it goes, and I've heard the manga is fantastic. Do yourself a favor and give Komi a watch someday. It might just surprise you. And as someone who has suffered with crippling social anxiety for most of their life, I'm thankful that this series exists, and I hope that Komi's journey through day-to-day life will give others with similar problems the courage to make those first steps themselves. Wherever you are, you're awesome and you have my support. With that said, thank you for watching, hope you're having a good day, night, wherever it is in your time zone, and this has been Why Komi Can't Communicate is Amazing. Hope you enjoyed.